I wanted to take a look at a couple new reviews of Hogwarts Legacy, but before we get into that, I was going to make a separate video about this, but I think I'll just tuck it in right here. I actually had made a video saying that horrible Hogwarts Legacy review in Wired should not be included in Metacritic or OpenCritic's aggregate scores of the game. And I made this video and then I went and checked, after the fact, checked both those sites, and lo and behold, the review was not included. This 1 out of 10 review bomb essentially was not included, and I have nothing but respect for those websites for not including it, because it was clearly a hit piece that the reviewer either didn't play or didn't play very much of. And I'm glad that I don't think that a review like that should be included. Now, if a reviewer does play the crap out of a game and genuinely hates it so much to give it a 1 out of 10, fine. But I don't think you should be giving out review scores based on your dislike of the creator of the game, or or in this case, J.K. Rowling, who didn't even create the game, but whose world it is based upon. So now we come to Kotaku and Polygon, both of which have published recent impressions. I wouldn't even call them reviews. I guess reviews. One of them's a review, and one of them's like a 15 hours in. I just kind of did my 15 hours in video. I'll start with Kotaku. That's the 15 hours in. This is Carolyn Petit. I don't know if I'm saying Carolyn's name right, but she talks a lot about the game, what she likes and dislikes. It's a proper review, okay? So that's good. But what I find so odd about these reviews is that they have to focus so much on Rowling's worldview that it just gets away from the game so much. Like, this one focuses a lot on goblins, right? And what I find so strange about this argument around goblins is that they keep presenting the goblins as these horrifically oppressed people in the Harry Potter world. But I'm not so sure that that's exactly true. This review takes issue with the fact that the bad guy is a goblin seeking goblin liberation, but that he's bad because he uses violence and takes things too far. Kind of like critiques of Black Panther and Eric Killmonger, in that he wasn't necessarily wrong for wanting all the, to fight for liberation, but that his means were wrong. And that's a moral argument, and it's not wrong to say that this game doesn't necessarily address this enough. Although I will say that if you've only played this far into the game, perhaps you need to play further before you write an opinion piece about whether the game addresses this or not. She writes, but again, this is Rowling's world, a world where protecting the status quo is noble, where a black magical cop is called Kingsley Shacklebolt. I'm pretty sure that's because he's a cop, not because he's black. Where maybe one house elf every now and then can get her freedom as a treat, but where the real bad guys are the goblins or trans people demanding equality and liberation from those who oppress them with all the power and money and institutions and entrenched social prejudices behind them, resulting in those oppressors needing to be defended. Okay. What? Rowling's world is not about protecting the status quo. I mean, like, literally, the villains of Rowling stories are Voldemort and all these people who are advocating for, like, pure blood. Essentially a fascistic return to, like, make the wizarding world great again. Like, the Harry Potter books are anti-status quo. They have warnings about state overreach. About they were reading them during like the Iraq War era. You could see how Rowling was very concerned with things like the Iraq War. These are very liberal books. The real bad guys are the goblins or trans people demanding equality. Where are the trans people demanding equality in the Harry Potter books? What the fuck is this even about? Like, what are they talking about here? Goblins also, I swear to God, everyone keeps thinking that house elves are goblins and that goblins that they're the same thing or something. House elves are enslaved. Yes. And that is addressed in the Harry Potter books. Hermione is very upset by this, right? The status quo is challenged. It's presented as a bad thing. But goblins are not enslaved. Goblins and humans have had a long-standing rivalry. And we can debate like how that plays out or what the message is for that. I guess I'll delve into that more when I get further in the game, since I don't feel that after the amount of time I've spent, I can really comment on how the game portrays this in the end. But in the books, goblins are not slaves. They're not being like they run Gringotts. They have a lot of power, and they've in the past, we know that there have been like violent outbursts between wizards and goblins, but I don't think this is not a house elf rebellion we're talking about. So this other review from Polygon, Gita Jackson, GIF, I don't know. Disappearing into Hogwarts Castle doesn't render this ongoing debate invisible. In fact, the world of Hogwarts Legacy, in particular the game's conspicuous attempts at diversity, illuminates Rowling's hatefulness in stark relief. Okay. Somehow, Hogwarts, as it existed in the 1890s when the game takes place, is more diverse along every axis than it is in 1995, when the Harry Potter novels begin. When I read the books as a young girl, I longed for more Indian representation than just Parvati and Padma Patil. In Hogwarts Legacy, multiple professors are Indian, as are my classmates. There's a potion vendor in one of the small hamlets that has the same name as my mother. Rather than providing comfort, it makes me skeptical. While Rowling's racial representation has never been good, tossing a half dozen Indians into the Scottish countryside willy-nilly isn't exactly better. Where did they come from? India, which was still under British rule in the 1800s, and where did they all go by the time Harry Potter got there? This is a fascinating paragraph for me. So many people who were critical of the Rings of Power and its diversity said things like, well, why is Middle Earth so racially diverse in the Second Age, but by the time we get to, the Lord of the Rings trilogy and Tolkien's actual universe, it's pretty white? What happened to all those black and brown people? And this is like the same argument that they're making in this Polygon piece. Unwittingly, I'm sure. Couple other things. Rowling's hatefulness. This is trying to present Rowling's lack of, the same level of diversity in the 90s as hatefulness. Now, I don't know about you, but a brief and cursory look at the history of media and entertainment media and Hollywood would show and illustrate pretty quickly that there just wasn't the same focus on diversity in the 90s. Like, things were getting more diverse, and certainly you can see that in the Harry Potter books that do have, Asian and Indian and different characters of different racial backgrounds, but not that much, because again, here is a British author writing about British characters, and Britain is still, even though there are many minorities there, mostly white, and many books and movies and whatnot in the 90s were pretty white. I don't think anyone, well, okay, I shouldn't say this, but you don't go and like look at Friends and think, God, whoever made Friends was just full of hatefulness because all those cats are white. Now, again, it's just the 90s, man. Like, it was a different era. There was less of a focus on diversity. We have come 3 decades on into the future a long ways in terms of focusing on diversity, for better or worse. Because here we see, this level of criticism of there's a skepticism, right? How come all these? They're saying it's so funny. This is this like ultra progressive writer here saying, how did all these different racial groups show up in the Scottish Highlands? Like, where did they come? Yeah, totally. This is what critics of like woke inclusionary policies in these things are always saying. Why? This is so funny to me. A lot of people will say, wait a minute, like, how come this fantasy world that is geographically isolated from the larger world, how come it's like more diverse than modern day America? How did that happen? And people are like, you're just being racist. And it's like, well, no, I'm seriously like, how did that happen? Why is this so racially diverse when this is, a medieval setting? Same thing here. I've thought the same thing. Like I'm fine with Hogwarts Legacy being this diverse. I don't care. But it is funny. It is funny because it's like, wow, it's way more diverse than Harry Potter. But I'm surprised to hear it from somebody who is generally a fairly, woke, left-leaning, progressive at Polygon of all places, because this is exactly the kind of reasoning that you hear from more, I'm not going to say right wing, but like critics of the woke movement. Where did they come from? How is it that Hogwarts is this diverse? It's crazy. But to pin this all on Rowling just seems like another cheap shot and another lazy dig, if you will. Because Rowling wasn't being hateful when she wrote these books. She was just being normal, like literally almost every other writer of fantasy and sci-fi and most movies and TV shows. I mean, it just was, the 90s were a different time. And, there wasn't that focus. When she wrote Harry Potter, nobody was writing about how it wasn't diverse enough. That just wasn't the focus. And I'm sure that Rowling wasn't just this steaming pile of racist garbage trying to keep black and brown people out of her books. She was just writing what she knows. So I don't know. These are just more, I just find this whole like, let's write a review of Hogwarts Legacy, but let's make at least 50% of it be about our feelings and opinions towards Rowling. Let's let's have all these caveats and let's have all this like throat clearing around Rowling. And, I was a fan when I was little. Everybody was a fan when I was little. Please don't hate me for being a fan back in the day. Shut the fuck up. Literally, you are so boring. You are saying the same thing that every other games media fucking wannabe journalist has said. Like, this is not interesting criticism. This is not compelling in any way. Your views on J.K. Rowling are boring. Nobody cares except for the echo chamber that you have buried yourself in. Entombed yourself in. You are signaling to all the right people, right? How pure you are and how bad Rowling is. Let's just emphasize how bad she is. It's a game review. Write about the game. And I'm glad that at least these two pieces do write about the game and do include actual discussion of the game, unlike the Wired piece. But there's just so much of a focus on Rowling that it kind of undermines the whole thing. Like you are making these giant logical leaps to pin anything wrong with the game on Rowling's worldview, but you don't even understand that worldview. And you've retconned so much of the Harry Potter stories into fitting your worldview of what Rowling must believe. The idea that Harry Potter is just a defense of the status quo, or that it's told from the perspective of a rich white woman, when Rowling was not a rich white woman when she wrote Harry Potter. So, yeah, it's just kind of pathetic, honestly. And I know I'm an evil bastard for defending this game, but I think a game should and can be easily reviewed on its own merits and not always through the lens of this person twice removed who didn't even write the story or do anything. And again, you paint yourselves into a corner on this one, people, because you say, I'm skeptical of this diversity. I think it's all a smokescreen. This trans person that they included in the game, that's a smokescreen. It's designed to take focus off of Rowling. It's designed. Okay, but imagine if this game wasn't diverse, didn't include a trans person, etc., etc. Well, then all the op-eds, all these hybrid op-ed reviews, all this shit would be, oh, this game isn't diverse enough. Look at how racist it is. Oh, there's no trans representation. Look how transphobic it is. You cannot win with people who are disingenuous and arguing from a place of dishonesty just to prove how pure and good they are, rather than to actually critique, which is their job. That's all I have to say about that. Thanks for watching. Peace.